Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here. It's a privilege for me to be speaking about something that I've newly been inducted but hugely been influenced with. And for me to have you all here, and I was just speaking briefly with some of the people, and I all do feel like a baby into this field with the kind of experience that I've just been exposed to. Um, the idea here that I wish to speak to you all is share my thoughts, my experiences, and how my journey has influenced me and just incited so many thoughts, and for us to take them forward and maybe try and influence the society and the people we know ahead of us. So I call this battle beyond my frames. As I said, this all started with more of a hobby, a leisure activity, trying to see what really is happening in our jungles, and learning from things, learning from the experiences, and being more aware and being more sensitive to how everything around us is so much integral to our own presence in this world. Just a small disclaimer is about the pictures that you'll be seeing here are most of them from wildlife sanctuaries and tiger reserves are taken by me, but I've added some of the pictures to add to context, downloaded from net and with copyright and due credit given to them. Is just about, as I said, bring in some context to the story that I want to share with you all here. And of course, as I said, I'm just a baby, as mentioned. So please do excuse me if something that you may feel that I'm falling short of the knowledge and experience that ought to be delivered from this platform. Wildlife, as we talk about, is a journey into the wild and experience that we all have. And for most of the people living in the cities, at least if I talk about the Indian cities, and here I'm going to share my experience of the most of these tiger reserves in northern and central India. A trip to these jungles is mostly either a weekend trip or something which just adds to a main holiday, and people would just go and spend a couple of hours in the jungle. And what we get to hear, okay, I've been to jungle and I've seen nothing. Why? Because we get to see pug marks, we get to hear tiger calls, tiger being the main excitement and the main reason that most people like to go. But all that we get to hear, all that we get to see is, okay, I saw the pug marks, we heard that a tiger crossed by just about this morning, or sometimes even an hour back, or like I said, we just hear some tiger calls. So this is the most common thing. And I had been a party to that also for good about 10-15 years of my very sporadic trips that I would make to Corbett, is the most visited jungle for people in at least this part of India. To briefly tell you about me, I'm a Delhi-based practicing architect. I've been practicing architecture for about 32 years now, and my work has primarily been focused on eco-friendly and sustainable architecture. And some of the thoughts that I carried forward to my wildlife perhaps were originating from there, my work and my sensibilities. I also started working as a professional photographer, but my genre was not wildlife. There are various things that I got into during my journey as a photographer. Of course, it all started with documenting my own work for my own professional reasons, which we had to keep for ourselves and sometimes to present to the client. As I said, I dabbled into various genres. I did some amount of fashion, some amount of heritage and cityscapes, and also tried my hand on sports photography. I also did a couple of projects for development sector, shooting their projects across city and even outside city, documenting the things that some of these people in the development sector are doing. And as the architecture part of it was always a consistent part of things that I did. It was in December 22 that I incidentally got nudged into taking a trip to the our famous again Corbett Tiger Reserve. After all these years, it was the first time, as I said, I got to experience the wildlife from somewhere up close, and I was excited. I had always heard of Dikala, and I thought, okay, maybe this time we'll get to see the forest differently, and not just the pug mark, and not just hear the tiger calls, and come back telling the same story. Oh, there are no tigers in India. Oh, there's nothing in India. We just see them in the picture books and things like that. So yes, as it was to be, the most common sight in these jungles are these, more than, of course, the tigers you see. This is what you get to see, and hordes of them, for better or worse, these numbers are growing more than anything else, and sometimes it's upsetting, it's disturbing, somewhere, because I think we are being insensitive to what jungles are and how we need to be, treating them. We had a 3-day trip, and yes, some of the common sightings were just looking around jungle, catching distant views of some of the birds, sometimes getting them little up close and things. But yes, one thing that we weren't seeing was the tiger. And I thought, okay, it's going to be the same story of just getting to see some pug marks and coming back. Luck favored me, though not as much. On the last day, on the last safari that we were doing, this is what I got to see. And I thought that maybe he was teasing us, or maybe he was just inviting, but this was the closest I could get to a tiger. But honestly speaking, what I realized, that jungles are not just about tigers. The 3 days that we had spent there made me experience the jungles very differently, and know the jungles very differently, know something more than what I had always known. And I thought that was all, but that was probably nothing. So those 3 days really changed my perspective and made me want to do more. And here I am, trying to share the stories, what happened after those 3 days in these last 3 years. I took it on me and went around as much I could. I covered, I won't say covered, because some of these visits were only once in these jungles, but I did visit about 17, 18 of the tiger reserves and national parks across India, trying to understand, trying to learn, trying to hear the stories, trying to experience the stories, and trying to make the stories as the jungles really grow on you and show you what all you can do there. And I must say that I was not let down at all. The kind of experiences that I had in all these jungles were amazing, enthralling, and enticing, wanting to, they make you come back for more. This was my first sighting of a tiger, and I must say it was nothing short of, if I say I was amazed, it was just probably would be an understatement to what I really saw there. Every time that we see a picture of a tiger, we just see a tiger, and we obviously go back to what we've known the tiger as. Most of the people in India know of tiger as a very common word in Hindi, khunkar. And I mean, I may be wrong, but I must not shy away from saying that tigers I found to be most of the, if we still call them beasts, a gentle beast. This tiger that we saw walked in front of us for good half an hour in his own zone, just walking up to us, and obviously we were giving the space and walking ahead and letting him walk, and he was totally, not perturbed, just going his way, trying to mark his territory. And what a gorgeous sight it was is something which probably this picture doesn't even begin to tell. Like I said, this was just the beginning of what I was going to experience. And, the most sought after thing at that time is what you want to see as a head-on tiger. And yes, I was very lucky to see some of these head-on tigers in the most amazing setups that we have in the jungles of North India. In some of the jungles, they also allow you to visit at different timing, different places. And I had this amazing experience of this fellow who from nowhere just showed up. We were in this was in Satpura, and we were just making these rounds of jungle, looking for a female tigress who had just given a litter and was showing up at various places. In fact, we had spent 2 days looking for her, but probably luck wasn't on our side. And the entire 2 days, all we could do was just again maybe catch a passing glimpse of her, or as I said, just see some pug marks or something. And one of the nights that we went looking for her, this male tiger who had been loitering around that area in a couple of nights looking for the same tigress, and as luck would have, we were just greeted by him right in front of us at that time. So, all these experiences of seeing tigers, tiger still remains to be the most sought after, species, wild species that we want to see, and rightly so. Being the apex predator, tiger is the most critical part of a jungle. Tiger does define how the rest of the wildlife really kind of, balances out and thrives. And I must say, these 3 years of mine have really given me so much experiences, so many stories, and so many goosebump moments, I must say. Seeing this gentle beast right in front of our eyes, walking up close, walking head on, and the experiences have just been, just totally out of the world. This was an experience that I had. This was again at Bandhavgarh, and the beautiful background, the landscape that we have. The good thing, about the Indian forest is the landscape that we get to see, and the setups, the background that we get to experience and visualize the tiger is very unique. Most of these jungles in North India and the central part of India are very different. So each of these jungles presents you a very different experience. And as I said, that they also come with their stories. These shots were taken in Satpura, and these were the young sub-adults of a mother, and they were trying to establish their territory. So in the 4 days that I had spent there, we saw them conflicting with the tigers who were already holding the territory, tigers who, and these young cubs were trying to establish their territory. So some of their internal conflicts, but of course, what I'm showing you here is just the beauty of watching and experiencing, these, beautiful creatures in this wild. These are taken at Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, recently taken, and what you see here is that the one on your left, these two are siblings, and we had very nice experience of seeing that how they were, these siblings were actually still living with their mother, so they were living together, and how they were still trying to establish their territory, hunting for themselves, and within themselves trying to maintain an authority. The one that you see in the middle holding deer calf is actually a female cub, and she was so dominating that 2 of her male siblings were always hiding away and letting her just have the first share of meat. The one on the extreme right is actually a male cub, and unfortunately some of the stories I was sharing with Sir sitting in the front is about the experiences and the how sometimes the experiences have been really tragic. So I don't know if I should say I was lucky, but yes, I saw this male cub 3-4 times, and unfortunately he has been killed after that. There was some experience of some guard being attacked, forest guard being attacked, and the easiest prey for people to feel safe is to kill the tiger. So the day we left the forest, 3 days after that we heard, and this young beautiful cub, I mean, I don't have the words to really tell you how beautiful this cub was, and he was killed. The stories behind each picture are so that we can really kind of, can just have another talk just over one picture of how we experience and what we, really go through. Now, this is a female in Corbett, very famously known as Ped Wali. Now, this female tigress is uniquely known as Ped Wali because in her younger days, she could climb trees. Now, this is a very unique, behavior of tigers. As a cub, sometimes they do that, but as a full-grown adult, it's very rare. And this one has been, named as Ped Wali, but very shy tigress because so many trips I've made to Corbett in these 3 years, almost 4, 5, and it was only twice that I got to see this tigress. And this one we were really lucky. We were just passing by, and suddenly from this thick green that you see from behind her, she just walked out and, gave us this gorgeous, gorgeous view of her coming out of it. Now, the wildlife, as I said, the first interest always remains about this apex predator. That's probably the one that really attracts most of the people in the beginning. But as we, kind of start experiencing, we start understanding wildlife more, we realize and we understand there's so much more to the wildlife, so much more to experience. And one of this experience took me to the Gir forest. Sasan Gir, in the only place in India where we have almost about 500 lions. And it doesn't disappoint you at all. Yes, it is thriving. Sighting a lion is not such a difficult thing there. But we were really lucky to get some of the most picturesque frames with these tigers. This, what you see, was 3 siblings walking up to us while we were stationed on a plateau, and all 3 of them just walking up to us, was a sight to behold. So lions is is what you get to see in Gir, and we did see many of them. I'll have some more pictures as we go forward. And like I said here, just seeing lion its own glory was another great experience for me. Seeing these lions, like I said, the big 5 that we talk about, of these cats, I also then experience a very unique landscape for seeing leopards that we have in Javai Leopard Hills. Now, Javai Leopard Hills is not still recognized as a wildlife reserve because it is unguarded, but the most unique part of it is that it is established and managed and thriving on a local partnership. There is no, this is basically a huge hillock range that you have, and there are villagers all around it. The leopards mostly thrive upon their diet that they get from the cattle. They easily they pick up some cattle, some dogs from the village, and villagers are totally unopposed to it. Now, this is a very unusual kind of an arrangement that they've made with each other, because the villagers are supporting them, and now the villagers are actually also, this has become a livelihood for them. So most of these areas that we get to see there are being shown to us around by the villagers. They've made their own setup. As I said, it's not an official wildlife sanctuary. So, but the leopards that you see here are very unique because you get to see them on these hills. You get to see them in a landscape which is you can't see that anywhere else in the country. This was on one of my trips to Javai. After spending about 2 days, there, we were, kind of let down because unfortunately we didn't get to see much of the leopard. And on the last day, this young cub gave us everything that we wanted. He spent about good 2 hours with us, and he was so inquisitive. I have some more pictures of the same leopard. He was so inquisitive and so nonchalant about us being there. For 2 hours, there was not a single expression that he didn't share with us. So as a photographer, I probably could not have asked for more. you know. There were times we had to just put down the cameras and sit there and say, okay, we are done and there's nothing more he can do. And suddenly he would turn around and show something like, hang on, I can do much more. So, and then like I said, you know, you try to look around and you see there's so much of the wildlife. One of the, you know, the gentle giants, as they say, you know, the engineers of the forest are these elephants. And we see a lot of them in the northern belt, you know, throughout this Corbett and Rajaji, this area, you have a lot of elephants that you can see. And I must say that, you know, the experience of shooting these elephants in the wild has been so amazing. The kind of visuals that you get to see, the kind of behavior that you get to see, and the way you understand these animals is something, you know, life-changing. A very common behavior of mud bath, you know, that we see. Tuskers, of course, you know, generally just walk alone. Whereas the rest of the elephants, you would see them moving in their, you know, herds. And the forest, you know, gives you the kind of landscape, the whole setup of seeing them, you know, just act around in that setup is very enthralling. Seeing a tusker literally chase us, we were wondering that should we stay there and shoot or should we just run for life? You know, we decided to shoot and then we ran for life because this guy was just getting a little uneasy. So, as I said that, you know, we all also have a certain image, you know. The first word that I had used, you know, about tigers, in Hindi we call it khunkar, you know. We are, from our childhood, we have learned stories, we've come to understand wildlife in something which is scary, which is not safe. And I think that has been the biggest problem in how we get to understand wildlife. We've had, you know, a tiger just walk by us. A lion just stand there and stare at us at like 3 feet distance. Now, I'm not saying that these are acts of bravery that we are challenging him. We are not challenging him, and that's why he's not feeling challenged. And he's comfortable. Now, yes, of course, you know, with so much of exposure to human being, these people have also become kind of comfortable. But the whole concept, as I said, of us understanding that what exactly is wildlife. Wildlife is wild in its own ways, but it is not a threat to us. Somehow, you know, we get to just think that, okay, this is what wildlife is, something that you need to stay away from. Whereas we need to understand that it is a very integral part of our own existence. And some of the behaviors that I have experienced, have really changed me, you know, made me change my perception. Like I like to share with you the inquisitive. This is the same cub that I was telling you in one of the pictures earlier. It's a 2-year-old cub whom we saw for 2-3 days there and in different parts of the jungle. And what you see here, he's just trying to explore. He's very playful. I may like to use the word, he's just been abandoned by his mother. Now, this is also a very interesting part of their growing up. That a mother who's very protective of the kids, so protective that she doesn't let them, you know, out of their sight. She would fight the biggest of the tigers just to protect the kids for about good year or two. And at that point, she literally abandons them because she needs her own safety. She wants to protect her own territory, and she wants them to grow up themselves, not just kind of be dependent on her. Now, this cub, this is the cub of Arrowhead. Arrowhead again, Ranthambore, yes sir. Arrowhead unfortunately again just died about 2 weeks after we shot this one. When we were there, we couldn't see Arrowhead. She was already suffering. And Arrowhead also has a beautiful history, which again, like I said, could be another talk. But so, you know, for us, even to see the cub of Arrowhead was something that, you know, was a memory that we would hold on to. Seeing a tiger as the nurturing. Now, this is a tigress who had, now hunting pattern is something of, again, experience and learning by itself. This tigress, what you see here, had just hunt a huge deer, and she first took her own fill, put the deer in the grassland, ate her, to her satisfaction, and then went and got these. She had 4 cubs in this picture. You just see 2. The 2 were just on the outside the frame here. She had 4 cubs, and she just brought them around, got them to eat the stuff, and then she would take them back, put them back again on the riverside where she was hiding them. And to see how protective as a mother, how nurturing as a mother, as a tigress that she is, this experience, this behavior is nothing, short of being a human themselves. But again, the perceptions that we carry are far different from what their actual behavior are. The protective behavior. What you see here, the tiger who's looking at us is the child who's protecting her mother. The mother is comfortably sitting, and because we were about 20 of us standing on the other side, he didn't take the sight out of us. Every moment, in fact, I had so many shots of him just moving around, but not for a single moment he took his eyes off us. And this cub was about 2.5-year-old, maybe just at the age where the mother would let him go. But the kind of behavior you see, this is unimaginable, because in like I said, from the beginning we are taught, oh, you got to be scared of wild animal. And we don't realize that they are living their life, they are dangerous to their prey, not to us. Until the time we get into a conflict or become a threat, then it becomes an act of self-defense. And it is not something that they really want to get after us. Again, the caring. Now this picture has its own story. This cub, this mother had 4 cubs, and while 3 cubs were just playing around, we saw that we tracked this tigress for about 2-3 days. But generally when their cubs are young, it's very difficult to sight them. The probability is high because she would be out for hunt, but at the same time, on the contrary, because she would be always trying to protect them. So it's very, it gets very challenging to get a glimpse of the mother and the cubs. Now here we saw the mother with 4 cubs, and this one cub did not let go of mother. He just kept roaming around because we were all there, while the rest of the 3 were just playing around. And if some of you are familiar with these terminologies, in some of the jungles in North India, they have these local names. They have a official tagging as T1, T5, whatever. But in North India, generally they have these local names. Now this tigress lives across the river. So that's why she's known as Parwali, across. That's the word in Hindi. Kankati with Hanji. So ye Parwali, as again, now of course the kids have moved on, and this was taken this January that we were there. And we were lucky to, get this beautiful sighting when she was just crossing the river, with 2 more cubs. So the experience to understand this behavior, this was from Gir, the playful behavior. This was again 2 brothers. And, can we even think of these beasts being a threat to us if they are, displaying such kind of an affection for each other? So, this is not a split behavior. This is what they are. But then unfortunately, we fail to understand them, and we fail to realize that they are living their life. They are only a threat to somebody who becomes a threat to them. The romanticizer. I mean, look at this. The kind of affection that they show to each other, is something that is an experience of its own, and something for us to learn. This was again at Gir, and a mother just being protective about a cub, and the cub always just looking up to the mother to take care of her. We're going back to the same cub that we saw. Look at this, the loafer. He, for those 2 hours, really got so tired of us, and he was just lying around and saying, okay, you do whatever you want. I'm not going to move anymore. But yes, he was very intrigued to know that, what the hell are we doing? Why there are so many cut going on around him, and these cameras just shuttering around and taking his pictures. the very unique behavior that we see of the herds of elephants, led by the matriarch, the female who takes care of the entire herd, and so protective. I probably have another picture where she actually at one point got threatened and charged us. But this is how you see the kind of bonding you see, the way they move about is something that is a lesson for us all. And of course, the landscape that you get sometimes, it's something you can only be thankful for. This is Corbett. This is Corbett, just across that reservoir. Then, of course, to know and appreciate that the wildlife goes beyond the cliched shots of tigers and lions and of course, elephants. Our ancestors are giving us some of the beautiful sightings there. And of course, most ignored, but a really, really beautiful, a sight to see is these deers when they're just jumping around and inquisitively, very intrigued, looking at you, trying to know what you're doing. Some of the beautiful setups that we get to see, like I said, that the beauty of seeing these in that wild setup is only that you can experience. None of the pictures or the words can really explain. The golden jackal, again, very, excited. He was just wondering, what are we doing there in his house? I'm not so much of a bird photographer, but then yes, seeing them, in the wild, the light, the setup, the landscape, and to know that again the role they play in creating that entire, life cycle, the entire chain of their sustenance with each other, makes them very integral and important part of the wildlife. Brown fish owl. This was shot at Pilibhit. Pilibhit is one of the forests again in North India. If some of you don't know, it's the Tarai forest, Pilibhit and Dudhwa. These are the two very unique, very unusual because like Pilibhit has a setup where you have a canal system actually which was made by Britishers, and the forest has just grown around it. Again, it is sustaining on a local kind of collaboration where most of these tigers that we find there are huge and bulky because they get a lot of cattle to eat, easy feed for them. They just go to the villagers, and sometimes even villagers just leave, dead cattle for them. So it becomes easy meat for them. So the entire experience of exploring wildlife, as I said, was not just about knowing or the big cats that we tend to chase. Some of these birds that we get to see, these shots are taken at Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary. And to see them as a part of, unfortunately what's happening, something as common as, a sparrow, which used to be a part of our daily life, also is not seen in the cities now. The entire ecosystem has just turned over its head, COVID was a time when I'm sure you all must have experienced that we started hearing some birds chirping around our houses. We have almost forgotten how does it sound anymore, because the kind of cities that we are living in now are not the place for them, and that's where we are not only failing them, but we are failing ourselves. So like I said that, they just throw surprises at you, and if you're lucky, you are able to frame them. So where my thoughts started getting triggered was during this exercise, during these experiences, when I started seeing this. That is where my question started coming, that what are we actually doing? Are we somewhere crossing that line? Are we somewhere forgetting that where do we need to stop? And this was not just once. This was every trip that I went to. Every time we were seeing this. If you see the number of jeeps behind, the picture probably just explains what I'm talking about. But again, as I said, these probably will not even be a fraction of what you get to see, because
Are the electric vehicles or these diesel vehicles?
these are vehicles, yeah? These,
Electric vehicles?
no, these are not electric. These are all petrol.
What the difficulty done in that one?
Well, there's a lot that has to be done about it, and I wish I could give you the answers right now,
Okay.
but unfortunately. If you notice, the white car is a government car. And yes, you know, so again here, and like, this is where my questions started, coming in, that what exactly are these jungles and what are we doing about it? And are there things that are, we are kind of missing the point? I mean, these are not just for, trophy pictures for us to carry home and show it off to our friends and try to get some social media appreciations. Things like this you would be hearing and reading, everywhere, but then they just become lost headlines, not even headlines, they are probably on the 5th, 6th page of the newspaper. Tiger chasing prey dies after being hit by a train. 5 Rajdhani Express coaches derail, 7 elephants killed after collision in Assam. And like I said, these are just few. Leopard cub killed in hit and run highway. These don't even begin to tell you the extent of the problem and the number of such accidents which actually even go unreported. One of the important headlines here is these 55 tigers dead in MP this year, highest since Project Tiger launched over 50 years ago. I don't want to get into too much of detail or the political reasons here, but yes, it is something very something that went right our way, that in 1973 when Project Tiger was started, because tigers were almost becoming extinct, and the numbers that we have today are impressive. But then, is that really the right picture? Yes, number of tigers have grown, but what has also happened is that there is so much of poaching, so much of tiger lives lost. Probably if everything would have been right, the numbers would have been much higher. And why again I'm focusing on tiger here is that being the apex predator, it's very important for us to preserve tigers. Because moment you're focusing at the apex predator, lot of things by default fall into place. Now, one of the things here that has happened is that 166 tigers died in India in last 1 year itself. So you can imagine that the extent of the damage that is happening to our wildlife. And one of the main reason that has been highlighted is the rising territory conflict. Now, this is something where, as we saw within the tiger reserve, the previous pictures that I was showing you, that how we are not leaving enough room for them to survive. So, where are we going wrong? We are losing wildlife, we are losing forest, and I think most important of all, we are losing concern. Because the wildlife and the forest that we are losing is primarily, we are letting it happen. It's not something that is happening on its own. We are being insensitive to it, or probably not even aware that it's just slipping out of our hand. One of the reason here, as we spoke about, is poaching. Poaching is definitely, as what probably also comes to our mind, and we say that, okay, all the tiger deaths that we spoke about, 166 or something in the last year, they are happening because of poaching. But the poaching accounted for, as one of the reports said, about 22% of the tiger deaths. So there is still a huge number that we are losing otherwise. Like I showed you some of these headlines of accidents happening. That's again one of the main reasons. Again, there is an indirect impact on that. It's not just that they have to die out of an accident or being poached. If we are not letting their ecosystem, their habitat areas thrive, they would die on their own. The tigers also have to survive. As I was telling you in some of the pictures before, how a mother literally abandons them and the young cub has to fight for his territory. And if he is not able to fight for his territory, they die out of their own internal conflict. Now, one may say, okay, that's a wild behavior. But then that wild behavior is only happening because we are not letting them, we are not giving them their space to thrive. So why and where are we contributing to it? Deforestation, one of the major reasons. We are eating away their space. And why are we eating away their space? Is urbanization. We need our homes. We are taking away their homes to make our homes. Now, I know there is a very thin line and a thought of school of thought also could be that, this is a part of civilization. Yes, urbanization is a part of civilization. We are bound to have cities. But then the cities also need to grow with their own sensibilities, with their own sensitivities towards what kind of an impact are we really having? What are we really doing to these forests? Just to throw some boring numbers at you all, Indian deforestation rate from 2015 to 2020, in 5 years, we've lost 6,68,000 hectares per year. In these 5 years. The interesting thing is, from 21 to 25, we don't even have the data. So we don't even know where has it gone.
Only the size of small European countries.
I'll come to that. Second highest in the world. Tree cover loss from 2002 to 2024, 15% of primary forest loss. Now, when we say primary forest, you guys all must have understood that primary forest is the original forest which has lived and thrived for years and years. These are not the forestation done by some horticulture department, and trees have just, mostly eucalyptus trees have just been planted and let be there for maybe 2 years and that's it. Because they don't even have their own biosphere, they don't even have their ecosystem. So, yeah, so 15% of them have been lost. Now, let's have a comparison to this, the global deforestation rate. As I said, urbanization, civilization growth is a global phenomenon, and we cannot probably, ignore that. So, world over, in the 5 years that I spoke about, there has been a 10 million hectare per year. And compared to in India, we are talking about 0.7 million. Okay? So, which is about 15 times. So, 15 times more in the world. That is what as much is happening in India. Now, let's have a comparison to the land mass. The world land mass is 148.94 square kilometer, whereas India's land mass is 3.287, which is 45 times less. So, you can imagine we are losing the forest at 3 times higher rate. And that's where things are going wrong.
What is the world land mass?
Sorry? The total land mass, sir,
Total land on Earth.
on Earth.
That must be million square kilometers.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, it should be million square.
Yeah. So, what exactly are we doing? Link Road in Goa, 7218 trees cut. Now, this is just about a part of the entire highway, not the entire highway, because if you get into the exact numbers, it will probably be in, millions, lakhs at least. And that's exactly, so what happens is that we get to understand and, very sheepishly given a number, which itself is scary, because this amounts to the primary forest that we are talking about. These are not like new trees put and, just being kind of removed from their way. Delhi Dehradun National Highway, 11,000 tree cuts. I've been hearing about numbers of about 3 lakh or something actually. 2,500 trees cut felled for Noida Airport. So everywhere that we are building these things, we are losing primary forest. And again, coming to the fact that yes, probably it's important, but then are we really doing enough in compensation? Are we really doing enough to maybe find alternative routes, maybe find a way out where both can jointly exist, but perhaps not, because that is what is happening. Because of this is what we get to experience. And these pictures are just from last year. These are not historically drawn. These, you guys all must have heard the news of major landslides that we had last year. So all these pictures are from last year. And I mean, these are like catastrophe, the kind of damage that you're seeing to the, our ecosystem, our wilderness, our forest is something which is taking us back, God only knows how many years. And this is not where it ends. 400 acres of land in University of Hyderabad deforested, bulldozed to make way for an IT park. So this was again in news. I'm only going to talk about something that we've heard of, and believe me, there are so many things we haven't even heard of. Now this was eventually stopped, but then by that time the 400 acres of land had already been wiped off. Now 400 acre, imagine, the house that we live in is probably like 500 square yard, which is roughly, you would say, 1/10 of an acre. Now imagine 400 acres.
2 golf courses.
Easy, more maybe. Nowadays golf courses are made in 50, 60 acres. So, and like I said, it doesn't stop here. These, again, the examples that I'm picked here are the recent examples. Jaipur's Dolkabad forest, which we just heard about, was being raised to make some fintech park. And of course, we haven't actually heard all the news that should be coming out of Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh, the amount of mining that is happening there is something, unfortunately, because there are no cities around. So people are not instantly affected. We don't see new housings and all coming here because it is all being done for mining. So it is out of bound for us. But then all that mining is ruining all forests there. And the latest one, uniform definition of Aravali is accepted by Supreme Court. It will be a catastrophe for India's oldest mountain range. Now we all know that this is being done officially, and unofficially there is still mining happening there. So the challenges that we are facing, we really wonder, we are talking about wildlife, is it only their problem? Is it only for the wildlife's preservance that we are talking about? Is it only them that we want to survive? It is our problem. It's not just their problem. Because the moment we dissociate wildlife with us, we lose the plot. If the wildlife, as I said, tiger being the apex predator, defines how the rest of the jungle thrives. And the jungle defines how do we thrive. Because if there are no jungles, this is what starts happening to us. And we have seen it right up close. Delhi's air pollution, we have all experienced. Till today itself, you must have seen what the condition of the air was. Just after 3-4 days, we tend to forget, oh, things have become okay. But no, this is a living time bomb that we are all sitting on, breathing this air every day, and we only have ourselves to blame for it. It's not happened in a day or a week. I'd like to show you something here. This is historical data, and these red and darker lines that you see are the bad months. And here, when you start from the top, this is the data for 2020. The yellows are the good days. Not good days, they are tolerable days, I would say. And as you come down, this is the current situation now. You see, in year 2025, how the graph has shifted. What is the proportion of the tolerable days that has become, and what exactly is the proportion of so-called bad days that we are living through. So where is the solution?
Good question.
This is something that we need to figure out. We have been asking, the government has been telling us some of the solutions, we've been wondering, and probably all we've been doing is buying a new air purifier. For us, the solution ends there. But no, that's not where the solution is. We are the solution. It's for each one of us to come forward and start thinking differently, start acting differently, start behaving differently, start asking questions. This is what is happening in some of the examples that I had given you, and that is why they were saved. RA Forest in Mumbai, the Delhi protest that we saw for the pollution, the one at the bottom is again a protest that was happening by the tribal women of Chhattisgarh, and of course the Hyderabad protest that we saw. Now, how important it is? Does it really matter? When we may ask, and has it really made any difference? The thing is that these protests have become more active. These protests have become more inducive of the cause. they become more insightful, and they become something which has made people more aware and forthcoming, and people have started raising these voices. And yes, Supreme Court pauses its own judgment. Well, this is a half headline though, because after that Supreme Court did go ahead and allow that, but at least for once we did kind of get this thing to be questioned. And there was something, a relatively smaller thing, that there was some tree felling done at the Ridge Forest after the Supreme Court had banned, and the DD had gone ahead and done the tree felling, again for some road widening, and Supreme Court, yes, went on to, fine them. Now, these may not be enough for things to happen, but then at least these things are happening because people are asking questions. And if we say this is not enough, then probably we are not asking enough questions. And that's where each one of us needs to stand up and be aware. The solution doesn't, as I said, lie in buying a new air purifier, because that's where we are only shutting our eyes. The solution perhaps will only lie if we come forward and start asking this question. Some more headlines, as I said, Chhattisgarh puts 3 mining projects on hold indefinitely, and Supreme Court stays clearing of 400-acre green cover near Hyderabad University, seeks report from HC Registrar. So yes, there are examples where things have gone in our favor, and these examples have only been reactive, unfortunately. But which means that it is for us to act upon them if we want to see this again in our jungles. If we want to see them walking around in that grace and glory. If we want to see them showing their love to themselves and to us. If these beautiful creatures is what we want to admire, and we want to go to the jungles and experience them, if this is the kind of love we want to watch there and know that what actually wildlife is all about. Indian pitta, I mean, this is such a beautiful bird. It's a sight. Or such inquisitiveness in these eyes you will not see anywhere else. Some of these landscapes are something that only you can imagine unless you walk out there and see for yourself. And yes, our dearest deers, and the way they jump around is just a sight of its own. So for each one of them that we want to see, we must know that this is for ourselves that we're doing for our own generation. And the reason is that a world without forest would be a world without human. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Deforestation a solution? I mean, USA has done it. China is working at it.
Yeah, but with little more sincerity. Unfortunately, what is happening in India in the name of, reforestation that we see, first of all, the numbers are dismal, then mentioners, accountability. Most of these places where you see reforestation done, in a year or so, they are back to being barren land. So, I just said that yes, our population is growing, so we are also responsible for that. We are also responsible for our needs. We want new buildings, we want new infrastructure. So it's the dichotomy of it all is that we are the reasons that all these problems are coming. So we only need to find a way out. When we know that something that we are doing is what is creating problem, we need to be wiser, we need to be more sensitive, we need to be more responsible. Unfortunately, we don't see that happening.
No, but the pressure that's coming is from the real estate.
Yeah.
What you're doing with the forest is you're converting a lot of virgin forests into commercial real estate, irrespective whether it's an IT park
Yeah.
or whether it's an urban home.
Yeah.
So you're an architect. Tell us more about real estate.
My clients will probably like to sign me off tomorrow onwards if I speak about that. But I fully agree with you, sir. And I just said my own practice has primarily been based on sustainable architecture. Each of the project we do, we are very conscious about how well we can integrate it with our ecosystem. we need to learn to live with the, our own needs and the need of the society. The moment we start living in a conflict, we are only, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It's going to cut you both ways if you're not going to be spared either. So yes, unfortunately, the real estate is where the money lies.
And that's the booming sector.
Well, that's the most bizarre sector, which if you see, most of the areas that you go, you see the prices shooting up like two times, 3 times within a year, whereas you find most of the buildings lying vacant. So the irony of it all is that somewhere somebody is doing a lot of wrong. So yes, we need homes, we need offices, we need workplace. That's a whole, that's our ecosystem, so to say. Now, how do we fulfill that need without really taking away somebody else's need? Not the easiest question. I'm not saying that, okay, let's not do this, let's not build. The answers are not that simple. But there have to be answers found. Like, if I tell you one of the simplest thing about creating tiger corridors, I'm sure you are aware of it. And this has been a proposal for the longest time.
That's why it started. It started with the Tiger Reserve, Wildlife Reserve, yeah.
And the most glaring example of it is the Central India. In Madhya Pradesh, you have 8 tiger reserves now. 8 tiger reserves. At 2 hours gap, you could just move from one tiger reserve to another tiger reserve, but they are still not connected.
And the elephant corridor?
Elephant corridor is another bigger challenge now. So if you see the famous Delhi-Dehradun highway that is being glorified was originally being made only for elephant corridor. Because if they are not moving, then they are not growing. If they get restricted to one area, then they don't grow. And one of the reasons the tiger number have been what they are and could have been much bigger is because the tigers are not moving from one reserve to another. So if the tigers were able to move from one reserve to another, you would see a much healthier breed, you would see less of problems, and you would see a bigger growth.
But actually, I'm going to come to that. I think your pictures are absolutely wonderful. Some great
Thank you.
photography.
Thank you, sir.
And the emotions are. I have some experience with watching tigers from very close. I must tell you, all the tigers you showed, except maybe one, are malnutrition. You can make that out from your picture. All of them.
So-
this includes the babies just been
So why
born.
are they
Yeah.
malnutrition?
Because the areas that they are, you think that you got a reserved forest where these animals can grow. But is that enough? Isn't enough food?
They are not enough. So that's what I said. Because their habitat is shrinking.
Yeah.
Each tiger requires certain amount of area so that he can feed himself well.
Yeah.
Now, if as I showed you some of these pictures, and incidentally, sir, 2 of them that you saw, and there were 3-4 slides of them, the Corbett ones.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the days we were shooting were before the hunt, and that's why you just find them little shrunk.
Yeah. See, look at that.
Yeah. But
Because they don't have refrigerators where they.
no, they don't.
buy food
So
for
that's
6
also
months.
very interesting phenomenon that we see. Just before the hunt, they'll be all shrunk,
That's right.
and once they've had their feast, then for about a week you'll see them nice and healthy.
That's true. Yeah.
But yes, some of the areas where the their prey are easier, like I said, the Pilibhit and the Tarai forest. Here they just pick up a cattle and eat. So one of the pictures you saw, the Barai male from Pilibhit, he was huge. I mean, we were like, he doesn't look like a tiger.
Yeah.
So and then of course, central India we saw some of the well-fed tigers. Bandhavgarh and all, they are well-fed. So.
How do we compare with Africa?
I've not
They've
been
got
to
tigers.
Africa, ma'am, but there are no tigers
They're
there.
wildlife.
They don't have tigers.
So,
They're wildlife.
frankly, Africa,
Don't compare at all. The elephants are 3 times as large.
yeah. But then, there, the experience is very different. The entire chase in India, like Africa is like a park. You have so much of them in abundance. You go there and you're bound to just see plenty of them. In India, you have to chase them. You have to wait for that moment. So as a photographer, that's more exciting.
It's impossible to believe that you have such large elephants with the kind of tusks. They're
but Africa has tried,
How are they
for
surviving
example,
so
Kenya
well?
has tried Masai
It's
Mara.
got a lot of grassland.
And Masai Mara is the one in which the population around that forest has been involved into preserving
Yeah. Though you might have heard of this huge case happening in Masai Mara. There's a Ritz resort that they've made right in the middle of Masai, and the entire tribe is up in arms against them. Let's see. I mean, again, the way Sir said, real estate is getting everywhere. So it's right in the. In fact, there were videos where they blocked one of their migration passage. So once you lose the migration passage, you literally are, sentencing the huge bunch of them to death.
Yeah.
Because once they can't cross over, they'll die at some corner.
In Africa,
And
all
this-
that also has that culling issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also this fear
Sorry.
about the tiger
yeah,
that has been instilled into, you use that kokar or whatever
Yeah.
technical. It ought to be clearly understood that no tiger is a man-eater
yes,
by nature.
absolutely, absolutely.
In
So,
fact, tigers are scared of human beings simply because their neck being like so and eyes being so, they can't move it
Look
up,
up.
know exactly how tall you are. So if you're standing in front of a tiger, the tiger finds it very difficult to assess your height. And so they're actually scared of you. The first strike that a tiger will make on a human being is a human being who is bent. So if a human being is bent like a woman who's picking wood deep in the forest, the
That's
tiger
the
will
easiest
hit
prey.
it by mistake.
Okay.
And having hit that woman by mistake, most likely it's mostly a woman because she's the one who's collecting this. Then they realize this is easy meat. They have nothing to protect
yeah,
themselves, and the meat is rather tasty. That's when they become man-eaters. Otherwise,
and
they've never
again,
hit,
these are, some of them are, sheer accidents. Like,
yeah, that's right. It's an accident.
3 years back, one death of a forest guard happened in Corbett.
Yeah.
And amazing thing, all these forest guards are on their feet
Only latte.
and they walk with a lathi.
True.
And they are not scared, and the tiger doesn't say anything to them.
No.
They just move around, and they are so much aware of all the species, everything. So they are very comfortable with that. In fact, they are our friends. They tell us, "Is side milega, us side milega." One of the forest guard did exactly what you were saying.
Mm.
He took a break, and he sat down, not realizing there was a tigress right behind him, resting. So he just sat down. For after about 5-7 minutes, he probably just did whatever. Obviously, nobody knows, and he stepped or maybe put his hand or something on the tigress, and the tigress obviously felt something, and the tigress just jumped across and ran over him because she got scared. She thought somebody's come to hit her,
And then,
and while running away, she kept her paw on his chest,
Enough.
and he died
oh my.
because the claws
Yeah.
are so. The strength of these claws are so deep and strong, they can drag something as heavy as 300 kgs. So just for her to step over him meant the guy was dead in
Enough. Yeah.
more than a second, not more than that he would have taken. And obviously, as it was to be, the tigress was declared to be man-eater.
Can you speak to some strategies?
So, frankly, these will not be ready answers. And these are something which are happening at much larger scale and with full awareness. So, when we talk about incentives, the governments are the ones who have to work on these. And unfortunately, governments are the one which are kind of incentivizing this, unfortunately, to let this happen. So the whole genesis of this problem lies where it should actually become the corrective process, and it is being led to just being allowed to happen in a way where it's actually doing more harm to us than benefit. So for whatever like I said, that could be maybe a little complex issue or a little controversial issue also to speak about. But then most of these areas, most of the real estate development you see, they are happening with full authority of the people who should actually be concerning and who should actually be protecting our rights. And because this is when you have any development, it is going to take a part of the land, it is going to take a part of the forest. But then how do we really incentivize is something which has to be thought of right at the beginning, the policy making. Whereas the policy making, I would probably say the policy making is not silent on it, but it is ineffective. So, you know, unfortunately on paper you see all the great plans and everything that is being done. As a professional, as an architect, I have been a part of some of these projects, and I will say no less word that I've been disappointed to the core, because we know that on paper we are taking care of it, but then eventually when we see, you know, we really do not see much happening. So yes, these are challenges, and that's why, you know, the only thing that I focus upon is our voice, because till the time we don't ask questions, you know, end of the day we are the sufferers, you know. Some of us individually may not realize it, but collectively it is affecting all of us, you know. Today, and the biggest and the most glaring example for us to see is this pollution. You know, I also am an athlete and I run, and I've been running for 15 years. I run long distance, and for last 10 years, I in fact showed you the data also, the kind of deterioration in the air that I've seen. This year, I did not step out on certain days because I just could not breathe.
But it's a eye opener. Can you bring that slide again? You
Sure.
mean to say even 3 months are really not good for the delegates?
No, sir, not even,
To those bars
not
are-
even other than couple of, not,
It's
not,
something surprising. Otherwise, people say it's only 2-3 months that you suffer and then it's all okay.
sir, that's exactly the thing. The tolerance level, the expectation level has been, I don't know if we'll be widening this conversation, but then in India we have low expectations. So we are provided something after so much of misery that we are very happy about what we get. Getting 200 AQI we think is a good day.
So can I start with, since everybody's got a problem, can I start with a solution?
One thing, since you are an
Can we all
architect,
campaign?
I would like to ask you, I mean, I understand there's a very basic fundamental thumb rule that for a survival, we should have minimum 25% cover as a green cover. Like Bhutan has 70, other places have more. And our green cover is getting reduced even less than 12.5, which is going downward. So I think I don't need, there's much technology required. So if we can't increase the green cover, then we have the other option, we cut down the population.
No,
If
you
we are
can't.
not doing that, then we have to do this.
It's easy to
Out
do.
of the 10 cities which were the most polluted with 2.5 pollution level, China has done within 10 years, 9 have been brought out of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have a bigger population, they were much backward than us, they could do it. So I think we have to do this more on a war footing, I think, not for the tiger, but for ourselves. So far pollution was considered is not good for health, it is bad for this, but now it is cancerous. It is causing cancer. So I mean, I don't think we have a choices here anymore.
So the.
So first of all, I said exactly what you said, that it is our problem.
Yeah.
So let's forget that we are doing it for tigers. You know,
So let me
I
ask-
just brought in tiger to show you some of my pictures.
No, I-
There was no other purpose.
No, so let me respond to his solution, sir. Good one. If you have to reduce the pollution, that's actually happening. Instead of reducing pollution of human beings, you're reducing pollution of the animals. So this reduction of pollution of reduction of population is already happening. You're killing the animals to save the human beings. So there is no way that asymmetry will change. Human beings do not allow animals to be larger in population than them. How can it be? It doesn't make sense. So it will always be the human beings will be more in numbers than animals. The point is how much more. And will you just save a leopard, a tiger, a lion, an elephant because they are lovely pictures, and half a dozen birds, or the entire environment? So these are hard questions. But why don't we start with something really simple? Something really, really simple. Can we all campaign along with our photographer? the Habitat Center members here, that no vehicle which is not electric should be allowed into these forests. Can you start and do that? So don't pollute them. You already polluted yourself. We have half a dozen cars parked outside our homes, and the sixth one is still coming because a little boy who's just been born needs a new car. See, we've done all our stuff, and we drive these vehicles around, large SUVs. I saw Mahindra there as well. I'm happy. I'll see if I can speak to Anand Mahindra. But the point is very simple. Why are you allowing diesel and petrol vehicles into these places? So you're choking yourself to death and saying, oh, now let's choke them to death as well. Why? Because I want a few pictures. I'd be surprised if our friend here tells me that he went in a vehicle which is electric.
Well, now, that's where I don't know how to term this.
Yeah.
Because, yes, there are electric vehicles now.
Yes.
But the problem is, we are doing too little, too late.
That's it. That's
You
right.
know, and most of the things, and this problem hasn't just sprung up in a day. Most of these things are happening because we have let this happen. We have, on paper, yes, we get to see a lot happening. In actuality, we kind of become immune to it. We've accepted that, oh, it's all right. And let me say something, sir. The problem is we only see a problem when it hurts us. When we say, oh, that official is asking for money, he's a corrupt guy. I mean, frankly, let's look at ourselves. Aren't we corrupt ourselves? How many times have we, thought that, oh, there's nobody standing here, let me jump this red light. I can maybe say that each one of us has done it, I would be surprised if there is one person in this room hasn't done it. So the problem being that, we talk about China, we talk about Japan. Japan rose out of ashes. Why? Because each of the person, each citizen believed in something. Culturally, if you see what they were, they were part of the war. They were not like easy, nice people trying to make a beautiful world. They were out to kill people. But something changed, right? For us, it hasn't. And unfortunately, one can say, okay, there's a graph of learning, but then I think in the graph of deteriorating in our country is going far more steeper than the graph of learning. So till the time, it will not be one solution of electric car, it will not be one solution of real estate, it will not be one solution of XYZ. It's a collective failure. And it has to be collectively overhauled. Only one thing will not change.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
The starting point has to be, let's start asking questions.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you want to try and knock off the petrol and the diesel vehicles out of these places, the first thing you'll have a trouble with is the mafia, the lobby, who've got contracts for these vehicles.
Yeah.
These vehicles don't belong to whosoever. Somebody's taken a contract saying, I'll take so many people into this place and this is the income I'll give you from it. You'll say when I upgrade to a electric vehicle, then my margins are gone.
The simplest maths of all of this would be somebody is making money out of it. And he doesn't care.
Which is why you need to align the incentives,
It's the economic.
right? You need to consider policy making and incentives.
Exactly.
Solution framework.
There's only one point which I would like to mention
Sir.
from the government. It is very easy to criticize. In the jungle and the ecosystem around, the tribals, how much they suffer when you reserve a forest and how much their life suffers. And there is always a conflict between the resources, where you have to feed, say, half the population, you have to give them food,
Yeah.
and then you have to preserve the forest. So somewhere there will be something which will have to be not optimal. And that is the problem. And then one thing, it's very easy to criticize, you have very rightly pointed out, that we are all in it. Why Delhi is so much populated, is polluted? Because a lot of people are just violating what has been defined in the industry, what
True.
has been defined.
We are the ones.
Yeah, so just to blame Rekha Gupta or the government is not going to be the solution.
Sir.
And now the issue is, it's going to be a massive social movement like that what Gandhi did. Other than that, there are no simple solutions. That's correct.
We have to change, sir.
Since we brought this to Delhi pollution, and I didn't want to bring it here because that's not the subject. But let me give you one indicator on the Delhi pollution. We had a session here on artificial intelligence. So I went to AI and I said, excuse me, AI, what is the pollution of Delhi? What is the population of Delhi? And what is the population of Delhi's vehicles? And I take the total number of vehicles, total number of people, divide with each other, and you find the capacity utilization of a vehicle in Delhi is 2.5. The vehicle can take 5 people. So essentially, you're doing 40% usage of a vehicle, but you still have vehicles running. So obviously you have pollution. Why? You are using a 4-wheeler as if it's a 2-wheeler. And you're using 2-wheelers with 5 people on it.
That's what I said.
No, you know,
Yes, please.
there is something which is missing.
Why can't you mention Panamo and Hazari?
That the people who are traveling
Sorry?
in metro, you have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
See, 90% of the Delhi population is traveling in metro.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
there is nothing.
So why are you driving cars?
Why didn't I mention?
Panamo and Hazaribagh sanctuaries, tiger reserves in your list.
I've not visited them.
Oh, but why not?
Why not? Because I wish I could spend all my time there. Unfortunately, I have bills to pay, and this is where my money goes.
No, because those also have very good.
Oh, there are 58 tiger reserves in India, let alone the other bird sanctuaries and national parks. 58 tiger reserves. I've only visited about 17, 18 so far, sir. Like I said, 22 December is when I started. I would really wish that, maybe in near future I'll be able to visit all 58 at least once, because each of them have their own unique landscape, their own unique experience of being part of it. So yeah, I definitely wish to visit most of them.
एक तो घोड़ा भी नहीं था आपका.
Tadoba sir, हाँ, Tadoba अच्छा है.
घोड़ा was not there.
नहीं, I have not. मेरा Tadoba sir अभी, in fact, मई में जाना था, but I incidentally अप्रैल और मई में मेरे 4 ट्रिप हो गए थे. So I thought थोड़ा काम कर लें, पैसा कमा लें.
Lingua cycling होती है.
हाँ, Tadoba अच्छा है.
But before,
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Really lovely presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for starting this conversation about collective action and what we should do. So I come from medicine, and a lot of us are just average citizens as well. And within medicine, there's now a whole field called One Health, which is the human-animal environment interaction. And your presentation would be a stellar representation of the One Health problem we're dealing with. Now, in other countries, and there's this lovely movement, it's out of, I think, Cornell, called the Moth Movement, which is more than human rights, because we live in this very human-centric world. Even now, we're talking about how do we keep us alive versus them alive versus not just one health and all of us alive. And so there's a lot of interesting case examples from all over the world. So Peru recently gave rights to bees. And so if there's any destruction of bee habitats, then there are people held accountable. In Ecuador, they've given rivers rights and other such examples. So for like an average citizen who does care about this issue but feels so powerless in the face of all these big industries, how can we like collectively move towards finding a more systemic problem like a lot of the policies people are talking about in this space?
I'm just coming back to the word that I use, collective failure. Now here, when we talk about these solutions, it will, again, practically it's not possible that the entire city or country would just wake up one day and say, oh, we want a new world. But then the good thing is that people are talking about it. These few examples that I gave are, they were, people-driven protest. They were self-conscious people who came forward, and then others kind of got aware of it, and they joined the entire thing. So seeing this, it is only kind of it just makes one more hopeful that yes, more and more people. But then the whole idea behind coming here and talking to you all today is to, in a way, urge you all that yes, we need to do this. We cannot be sitting back in our drawing rooms and saying, oh my God, this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. Because, if we keep looking at solutions that we can find, like one of the very common thing as an architect that I say, buying an inverter or buying a water purifier is not a sign of development, it's a sign of failure. And now that list has expanded to air purifiers. And we are buying them more. You know, yes, it's easy to blame the government, but then let's not forget the government is also out of us. These are the same people who are a part of the society, and for whatever, it's a human process. You look at the opportunities available and somebody makes a conscious choice of grabbing those opportunities. And why are they grabbing those opportunities? Because we are letting them. So if we feel they are wrong, we need to ask them questions.
Tarun, what a wonderful concept you spoke about. I also feel that maybe it is a first world or a third world issue where roti kapda makan becomes so important. And I wonder in these countries, I don't know if you've studied, who is the person, is it like when you say human rights, is it animal rights? Who propagates it and who could?
Actually, the indigenous community, like I think for some of the Amazons, it was the indigenous communities who were fighting for their rights. And I think in India also there's a big forest rights movement and also it's often from the communities who see the suffering firsthand.
So, you know, one of the things, like I said, you know, I just like to add here, the problem is with our education system as well. Because we are made to believe that jungles do not belong to us. You know, like, you know, I cannot recall from my childhood one story of the wildlife where I was told that the sher kha jayega. The tiger will come and kill you. Why should he kill me? He doesn't want me. I'm not his prey. Let him go to jungle. He'll get enough deer and, you know, enough nilgai and do whatever they want. The problem is that we have always, we have not been sensitized. If I really talk about just Indian context, you know, how many of us take our children for a hike? How many of us take our children on a place to just see the wildlife? Like I said, we go to Corbett because we stay there in the resort for 3 days. One afternoon we take a safari and we crib sirf pag mark dekha and we come back. So the thing is, we are not sensitive. So till the time I know something that matters to me, I will not really do anything about it. Because I feel, oh, the air is polluted, let me buy a air purifier because I can afford it. It's a sign of my affluence. It's a sign of my prosperity that I can afford it. I'll buy one for each room. And I do not realize that that's not the solution. That's where the problem is actually further mounting up. So, till the time each one of us realizes that the onus of it all is on us. However little we can do, we need to do that.
Let's get electric vehicles
The first thing.
to replace these guys.
Which is very
It's the only possible start.
I think, yeah, and then we also have to look out for the electric stations that might be available in the forest itself.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't need that kind of capacity. But what is it is correct. What is it? So whether you want to take the heat of the batteries into consideration or the pollution of
Yeah.
the
It is talking about less
yeah, but
problematic
first can you handle the mafia that's got the license?
So Tarun, leave aside a lot of things which I've realized. I think the crux of the matter, especially in India, I've realized is that ultimately we only respond to punishment,
Yeah.
and we respond to fines, and that's probably the only way we understand a problem. Is not because we want to understand the problem, is because we have to shell out and get punished for something. And I think it's absolutely a very different thing that had happened before. But like, for example, drunk driving was outrageous. But the only reason why it reduced was because we get caught. And there is more nakabandi, and there's a very high fine, and then you lose your license. So I think the only way we can control this, or whatever, this vehicles or something, is not by imposing the grab or whatever, is like just punish and just fine. You know, you go to the houses and whoever have a lot of cars and the number of people, and then you pay a tax because you own the car. And that's the only language we'll understand, I suppose.
The entire population of Delhi can be fitted into a number of cars at the rate of only 2 to a car. Can you believe this? You got a vehicle which can take 6 people and you put 2 inside that. And then you say, oh, we got pollution. You need all Delhi needs is the center.
concerned about is if we don't do one, we'll be losing the other, and the other is the equally most important thing. We won't have enough water.
So see, that's exactly what I'm just reiterating here, that none of this will first of all kind of solve on its own. Second thing, none of this will actually solve one at a time. It has to be a collective approach. Like what just Pallavi was saying, we all are contributing to the state that we are. So somewhere we need to take this decision that how can we really make it better. It's human nature again that we tend to flow towards the easy way. Why do we pay money to a cop and not pay the fine? Because we think that's the easy way. So we can blame the cop, we can blame ourselves, but then again, like I said, this is human behavior. You would follow, over a period of time, because things have been allowed to evolve like that. We've just realized the same Indians, when we travel abroad, we cannot even dare think of doing anything wrong, because we know that there we cannot get away.
But I think just to add to it, sorry, maybe a slightly different perspective, but sort of semi-move back up with what you were out. And I feel we're losing accountability as individuals. Secondly, I think all of us are very privileged to be sitting in this room and we talk about issues such as their cars and scooters. I feel it's the fundamentals of giving people basic infrastructure lie with the government, but it also relies on ourselves. Yes, that we need to take the initiative to keep streets clean, to be able to walk. I still walk, like Tarun knows, like I walk across all the way to my place from my home. I'm like, one day I'll do it, one day I want to walk at a time when it's safe. So there are I feel there's basic education that we need to change for our next generation to make them more aware, as well as get the basics right, such as infrastructure. You're not solving pollution by switching just to electric vehicles, you're still adding more vehicles. You want to make the streets walkable, you want to give people the right transport. And I feel forced as an individual, I struggle because I love walking. And I cannot walk to take public transport.
So this is, sir, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for what you.
Thank you so much, sir.
I think at the end of it, we've rather got into a situation where we're talking about all sorts of problems, but not really working out. The point that you made, collective, I think that's really the key. The interesting thing is artificial intelligence now, on any Google question, will give you a comprehensive answer. In other words, the answers are all there.
Yeah.
It's just that the will to act on them is missing.
True.
I think the lady said, well, what we really need to do is to get whacked. Is that how it works? And I think it's an idea, because, but that's too long a process. First, a lot of people have to be convinced that what they're doing is supposed to be right. Now, once that happens, then it becomes maybe a law. And the law then has to be implemented where the positives and the negatives come to. So we're talking about, as you said, maybe the next generation. I don't think we have the time. I think what's really necessary is to do something today. And what Tarun is doing is, as part of media, telling us, let's start doing something now. All the answers are there, but we need to start today, all of us.
True.
So, Tarun, we really appreciate you, but please put your work on Instagram, put your work on YouTube, put your work as far as possible, and if there's a resident welfare association which wants you to come and address us with an audio-visual situation, please accept it.
Sure.
Because we'll probably get, a few hundred people to listen to you, maybe the youngsters, maybe the middle-aged people, so that it's a balance and we can actually move forward.
That's exactly the thought, sir. In fact, like I said, I just started these taking these baby steps into wildlife. And first couple of years were only getting excited, you know, about a tiger headshot. The only thing we would think of going to a jungle was कि इस बार tiger headshot लेके आना है. And fortunately, the excitement didn't ebb, but then a lot of other things kind of, you know, creeped in, and I started taking it in a little wider perspective. And as you suggested, this year I've been trying to do that. I've already spoken at a couple of schools, what I'm speaking here today. Because again, it's all about making, you know, people sensitive about it, making people aware. And for kids to forget that sher khunkar nahi hota. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.